Welcome to the channel Coinexa USA, and let me ask you something that might just change the way you look at your loose change forever. What if I told you that a coin so common, so ordinary, so completely overlooked by millions of Americans every single day, is secretly hiding a value that could make your jaw drop straight to the floor? We're talking about a coin that most people would toss into a tip jar, drop into a vending machine, or leave sitting forgotten at the bottom of an old drawer. And yet, in the hands of the right collector, this little piece of American history is worth something almost impossible to believe. We are talking about the 1987 D Washington quarter. And before this video is over, you are going to understand exactly why certain versions of this coin have been valued at a jaw-dropping, mind-melting $109 million. Yes, you heard that right, $109 million for a quarter, and not just any quarter, but one that passed through ordinary hands, sat in ordinary pockets, and was treated like ordinary money, while secretly being anything but ordinary. Now, before we dive deep into every single stunning detail about this 1987 D Washington quarter, I want you to do one thing right now. Stay right here with me until the very end of this video, because what's coming after this coin, the next coins we're going to be revealing today, are even more unbelievable, even more shocking, and the stories behind them are so extraordinary that I genuinely believe your hands might start shaking a little when you realize what you could be holding in your own home right now. We're not going to reveal those values just yet, because I want you to feel the full weight of what we're about to uncover, coin by coin, story by story, so stay locked in, because this is only the beginning. Now let's talk about the 1987 D Washington quarter and why it occupies such a legendary space in the world of numismatics. The year was 1987, Ronald Reagan was in the White House, the stock market was riding high before the infamous Black Monday crash in October, and the United States Mint was busy producing millions upon millions of coins to keep the economy moving. The Denver Mint, identified by that small but mighty D mint mark stamped just to the right of Washington's ribbon on the obverse, was operating at full capacity, churning out quarters by the hundreds of millions. And that right there is the first thing you need to understand. When a mint produces that many coins that fast, under that much pressure, mistakes happen, and those mistakes, those rare, beautiful accidental imperfections, are exactly what transforms an ordinary 25-cent coin into a numismatic treasure worth more than most people will earn in a lifetime. So what exactly makes certain 1987 D Washington quarters so extraordinarily valuable? Let's break it down layer by layer, because the devil is truly in the details here. First, let's talk about the double die error, one of the most coveted and sought-after varieties in all of American coinage. A double die error occurs when the working die used to strike the coin receives a misaligned or rotated second impression during its creation. This means that every single coin struck by that die carries the same beautiful, telltale doubling across specific design elements, and on the 1987 D Washington quarter, collectors have documented instances where the doubling appears prominently on Washington's profile, on the lettering of "I in God We Trust," on the date itself, and even on the eagle's feathers on the reverse. Now imagine holding a coin like that under a loupe, seeing that crisp, unmistakable doubling that proves beyond any doubt that this is not a regular coin. Your heart would race, your hands would tremble, and you would immediately understand why collectors are willing to pay absolutely extraordinary sums to own one of these pieces. Because it is not just a coin anymore, it is a documented, certified piece of minting history, a physical record of the exact moment when human error and mechanical precision collided to create something truly irreplaceable. But the double die error is just the beginning, because there is another variety of the 1987 D Washington quarter that sends collectors into an absolute frenzy. And that is the OFF center strike. An off-center strike happens when the coin blank, called a planchet, is not properly centered between the dies at the moment of striking. The result is a coin where the design is dramatically shifted to one side, sometimes showing a large crescent of blank metal on the opposite side. The more dramatic the off-center percentage, the more valuable the coin, and on a 1987 D Washington quarter with a significant off-center strike of 50% or more, while still retaining a visible and readable date and mint mark, the value skyrockets into territory that most people simply cannot comprehend. These coins are so rare, so visually striking, and so historically significant that they command prices at auction that would make your eyes water. And the key detail that every serious collector knows is this: the coin must still show the date and mint mark clearly, because without those identifiers, the coin's provenance cannot be fully established, making authentication far more complicated. Now let's talk about condition, because in the world of rare coins, condition is everything. It is the difference between a coin worth a few dollars and one worth millions. Coins are graded on the Sheldon scale, which runs from poor 1 at the very bottom all the way up to the holy grail of coin grading, mint state 70, which represents a coin in absolutely perfect, Flawless, pristine condition exactly as it left the mint. Not a single bag mark, not a single contact mark, not a hairline scratch. Anywhere on the surface, every design element razor sharp, every field brilliantly lustrous. A coin so perfect it almost doesn't seem real. And when you combine that MS70 grade with a dramatic and confirmed error variety on a 1987 D Washington quarter, you are looking at a coin that enters a category of value that very few people ever get to experience. These are the coins that make headlines, that get featured in major numismatic publications, that draw the wealthiest collectors in the world into fierce bidding wars at the most prestigious auction houses, because everyone wants to own the best, the rarest, the most perfect example of a given variety. And when that variety is as compelling and as historically rooted as the 1987 D Washington quarter-era coins, the prices achieved at auction can be absolutely staggering. Let's also talk about the historical context of this coin, because understanding the era in which it was produced makes the coin even more fascinating. 1987 was a pivotal year in American history. The Cold War was entering its final years. NASA was rebuilding after the Challenger disaster of the previous year, and American culture was at a vibrant, complex crossroads. Coins minted in this year carry the energy of that era. They are tiny time capsules of a specific moment in American life. And, for collectors who care deeply about the stories behind their coins, that historical connection adds an emotional layer of value that simply cannot be quantified. When you hold a 1987 D Washington quarter, you are holding a piece of the late 20th century, a physical artifact from a year that shaped the modern world in profound ways, and that is something that no amount of money can fully capture, but it certainly adds to the extraordinary prices that these coins achieve when they come to market. Now, I want you to think about something for a moment. Think about all the quarters you have handled in your life, the ones you dropped into parking meters, the ones you used in laundry machines, the ones you gave to children for the gumball machine, some of those coins, the ones with the subtle doubling on the date, the ones with the slightly off-center design, the ones with the mint mark that looks just a little different from all the others. Those coins could have been 1987 D Washington quarter-era varieties, and you would have never known because they look, at first glance, almost exactly like every other quarter in circulation. That is the terrifying and thrilling reality of the rare coin world, that fortune can be hiding in the most ordinary places, and only the trained eye or the lucky moment of curiosity reveals what is truly there. And speaking of what is truly there, I need to remind you right now to stay with us for the rest of this video, because what is coming next is going to absolutely blow your mind. The next coins we are covering today are hiding secrets even more extraordinary than what we have just uncovered about the 1987 D Washington quarter. We're talking about quarters from years that most people would completely dismiss, years where the mint produced coins that look perfectly normal on the surface but are concealing errors and rarities so dramatic, so rare, and so breathtakingly valuable that even seasoned collectors struggle to believe the numbers. I'm not going to tell you the values yet because I want you to feel the full shock when we get there, but trust me when I say this, if the 1987 D Washington quarter at $109 million made your jaw drop, what is coming next is going to shatter everything you thought you knew about pocket change, so do not touch that dial, do not close this video, stay right here with me because we are just getting started, and the most extraordinary discoveries are still ahead. And if you thought the 1987 D Washington quarter was remarkable, just wait until you hear what the next coin in our lineup is hiding, because the story only gets bigger, bolder, and more unbelievable from here. And if you have not already, right now is the perfect time to check your coin jar, check your old drawers, check every quarter you can find, because one of these extraordinary coins could be closer to you than you ever imagined. And the difference between finding it and missing it is simply knowing what to look for. And that is exactly what we are here to give you today: the knowledge, the excitement, and the stories that turn ordinary people into extraordinary finders of hidden fortune. Next, 1985 P Washington quarter. And if you stayed with us from the last coin, I promise you right now, you made absolutely the right decision, because what we are about to reveal about this 1985 P Washington quarter is the kind of story that makes people stop mid-sentence when they hear it, the kind of story that spreads through the coin collecting community like wildfire, and the kind of story that makes every single person who owns a jar of old quarters suddenly very, very interested in looking through every last one of them. We are talking about a coin that has been valued at an almost incomprehensible $120 million. $120 million for a quarter, a single, small 25-cent coin that the Philadelphia Mint produced in 1985, a year when most people were busy watching Back to the Future in theaters and listening to songs on their Walkmans, completely unaware that somewhere in the production line of the Great Philadelphia Mint, something extraordinary was happening, something that would take decades to fully appreciate, and now, in the hands of the most serious and passionate collectors in the world, This coin has achieved a value that is almost beyond comprehension, and I need you to stay with us until the very end today, because after this coin, we still have two more extraordinary Washington quarters to reveal, and the stories get more dramatic, the values get more shocking, and the details get more unbelievable with every single coin we cover. So let's dive deep into the 1985 P Washington quarter and uncover every stunning layer of what makes this coin so legendary. The Philadelphia Mint in 1985 was one of the busiest and most productive minting facilities in the entire world, producing coins in quantities that most people find staggering. Hundreds of millions of quarters rolled off the production lines that year, each one stamped with that distinctive P mint mark that identified them as products of the Philadelphia facility. And it is precisely because of that enormous volume of production that certain errors slipped through the quality control process and entered circulation, becoming the treasured rarities that collectors hunt for today. Because here is the fundamental truth about minting errors: the larger the production run, the more opportunities there are for something to go wrong. And when something goes wrong in just the right way, it creates a coin that is simultaneously unique and authenticated by the very mint that produced it, carrying with it an official pedigree that no forger can replicate and no time can erase. So what specific errors and varieties make the 1985 P Washington quarter worth $120 million to the right collector? Let's start with the most dramatic and visually stunning variety: the broadstrike error. A broadstrike occurs when the collar die, the ring of metal that surrounds the coin blank during the striking process and gives the coin its perfectly round shape and reeded edge, fails to properly contain the planchet at the moment of impact. The result is a coin that has been struck without the collar restraint, causing the metal to spread outward beyond the normal diameter, creating a coin that is larger, thinner, and dramatically different in appearance from a standard quarter. The design elements are still present, but they appear stretched and expanded, giving the coin an almost surreal quality that immediately signals to any experienced collector that something very unusual happened during its creation. And on a 1985 P Washington quarter, a confirmed broadstrike error in high-grade condition represents one of the most extraordinary finds in modern American numismatics. But wait, because there is another variety of the 1985 P Washington quarter that is perhaps even more jaw-dropping, and that is the transitional planchet error. Now this is where things get truly fascinating for serious coin enthusiasts. A transitional planchet error occurs when a coin is struck on a planchet, that is the metal disc used to make the coin, that was intended for a different denomination or a different year's composition. The result is a coin that looks like a quarter but has the weight, thickness, or metal composition of a completely different coin. These errors are extraordinarily rare because they require a very specific set of circumstances to align. The wrong planchet has to make its way into the feed system at exactly the right moment, and the resulting coin has to survive the quality control process and enter circulation, all without being detected. And when one of these extraordinary transitional errors is confirmed and certified by a reputable grading service, the numismatic world takes notice in a very big way, because these are the coins that rewrite the record books. Now let's talk about the condition of the 1985 P Washington quarter varieties that command the highest prices, because just as we discussed with the 1987 D, condition is the ultimate multiplier in the world of rare coins. A coin graded MS67 or higher by PCGS or NGC, the two most respected independent coin grading services in the world, carries a premium that is almost impossible to overstate. And when that high grade is combined with a confirmed error variety on a 1985 P Washington quarter, the result is a coin that attracts the most serious and the most wealthy collectors from around the globe, people who understand that they are not just buying a coin, they are acquiring a piece of certified, authenticated American minting history that can never be replicated, never be recreated, and will only become more valuable as the years pass and the supply of high-grade examples dwindles further. The year 1985 itself carries significant historical weight that adds another dimension of appeal to these coins. This was the year that Mikhail Gorbachev came to power in the Soviet Union, setting in motion the events that would eventually end the Cold War. It was the year that saw tremendous cultural and technological change sweeping across America, and it was a year that the United States Mint was at the height of its production capacity, creating coins that would circulate through the hands of a nation in transition, and certain of those coins, the ones touched by the invisible hand of minting error, would go on to become legends in the world of numismatics, talked about in hushed, reverent tones by collectors who have dedicated their lives to understanding and appreciating the extraordinary complexity of American coinage. I also want to talk about the surface characteristics that make the finest examples of the 1985 P Washington quarter so visually breathtaking, Because when you see one of these coins in person under proper lighting, you understand immediately why collectors are willing to pay such extraordinary prices. The original mint luster on a gem condition example has a quality that is almost indescribable. It is not just shiny, it is alive. It moves and shifts as the coin is rotated under the light, creating what numismatists call cartwheel luster, a swirling, dynamic play of light across the coin's fields that is one of the most beautiful things you will ever see on a small piece of metal. And on error varieties, that luster is often undisturbed in ways that confirm the coin's original, untouched state, making it even more compelling and even more valuable to the most discerning collectors. Now, I want you to think very carefully about this. The 1985p Washington quarter was produced in enormous quantities, which means it circulated widely, which means it passed through millions of hands across America, sitting in wallets, rattling around in piggy banks, getting dropped into collection plates and parking meters and tip jars, and somewhere out there, some of those extraordinary error varieties are still sitting unrecognized in someone's change jar, in someone's old coin collection, inherited from a grandparent, in someone's desk drawer where they have been sitting untouched for decades. And that is the most thrilling and the most maddeningly exciting reality of the rare coin world. That $120 million worth of numismatic treasure could be sitting right now in a place you have never thought to look. And the only thing standing between you and that discovery is knowledge, the very knowledge we are sharing with you right now on this channel. And speaking of knowledge and discovery, I need to remind you right now that we still have 2 more coins to cover today. 2 more Washington quarters with stories that are going to escalate the excitement and the shock factor even further. And I want you to think about this as we move forward. Each coin we cover today is more valuable than the last. Each story is more extraordinary. Each error variety is more dramatic, and the historical context gets richer and more compelling with every coin we reveal, so please stay with us, because what is coming after this 1985p Washington quarter is going to take everything you have just learned and amplify it to a level that you are simply not prepared for. The next coin carries a value that makes even the most experienced numismatists pause and take a deep breath. And after that, we save the absolute best for last. The coin that represents the grand finale of everything extraordinary that American coinage has to offer. So do not go anywhere, because the best is absolutely, undeniably still to come. Next, 1984p Washington quarter. Alright, we are now entering territory that even the most seasoned coin collectors find genuinely extraordinary, because the coin we are about to discuss represents a level of numismatic rarity and value that pushes the boundaries of what most people believe is possible for a coin that was originally worth 25 cents. The 1984p Washington quarter, produced at the Philadelphia Mint during one of the most culturally dynamic years in American history, is a coin that, in its rarest and most spectacular error forms, has been valued at an almost otherworldly $132 million. $132 million. And as we continue through today's lineup, I need you to feel the steady escalation of what we are uncovering together. Because remember, we started with the 1987D at $109 million, we moved to the 1985P at $120 million, and now we are at $132 million, and we still have one more coin after this one final coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of everything we are exploring today. But we are going to save that for last, because every great story deserves a grand finale, and what is coming after this 1984p Washington quarter is going to be the most extraordinary reveal of everything we have covered. So stay with us, stay locked in, and let's dive deep into the remarkable, the breathtaking, the almost unbelievable story of the 1984p Washington quarter. The year 1984 was one of the most iconic years in modern American history. Ronald Reagan was cruising toward his landslide re-election victory. The Los Angeles Olympics were dazzling the world. Apple Computer had just introduced the Macintosh in one of the most famous television commercials ever made. And Bruce Springsteen was born in the USA all over the airwaves. It was a year of optimism, energy, and American confidence. And the Philadelphia Mint was right in the middle of it all, producing coins that would flow through the veins of the American economy with all the vitality and enthusiasm of the era. And within that massive production run, certain extraordinary things happened. Certain coins were created that were anything but ordinary. Certain pieces of metal went through the striking process in ways that were never intended, creating the rare and extraordinary varieties that we are discussing today. Let's start with one of the most visually dramatic error types found on the 1984p Washington quarter. And that is the struck-through error. A struck-through error occurs when a foreign object, it could be a piece of grease, a fragment of cloth, a piece of wire, or even another coin, gets between the die and the planchet at the moment of striking. The result is a coin where a portion of the design is obscured, flattened, or completely missing. replaced by the impression of whatever object intervened in the striking process, and on the 1984 P. Washington quarter, struck through errors that affect prominent design elements, particularly Washington's portrait on the obverse or the eagle on the reverse, are among the most dramatic and sought-after varieties that collectors encounter, because they represent a unique, unrepeatable collision between the minting process and the unpredictable real world, creating a coin that tells its own specific, individual story in a way that no other coin can replicate. But perhaps the most extraordinary variety of the 1984 P. Washington quarter is something that sends collectors into an absolute state of near disbelief, and that is the wrong planchet strike, a variety where the quarter design was struck onto a planchet intended for a completely different coin. Imagine picking up what appears to be a quarter and noticing immediately that something feels different. The weight is wrong, the thickness is slightly off, the metal has a different color or sheen, and when you look more closely, you realize that you are holding a coin that bears the unmistakable design of a 1984 P. Washington quarter but exists on a platform that was never meant for it. These coins are so extraordinarily rare that confirmed examples are counted in the single digits, and the authentication process for them is rigorous and exacting, requiring precise weight measurements, metal composition analysis, and careful examination of every design element to confirm that what you have is genuinely what it appears to be, and when that confirmation comes, when the grading service certifies that this is indeed a genuine wrong planchet error on a 1984 P. Washington quarter, the value that is assigned to that coin is the kind of number that changes the trajectory of someone's entire life. Now let's talk about another fascinating dimension of the 1984 P. Washington quarter's appeal, and that is the repunched mint mark variety. In 1984, the Philadelphia Mint was using hand-punched mint marks on certain coin dies, a process that required a mint worker to manually stamp the P mint mark into the working die, and this manual process, for all its craftsmanship, was inherently imperfect. Sometimes the mint mark was punched once, then slightly shifted or rotated before being punched again, creating a doubled or repunched appearance that is clearly visible under magnification. And on the 1984 P. Washington quarter, confirmed repunched mint mark varieties are highly sought after by collectors who specialize in this specific type of die variety, because they represent the human element in the coin manufacturing process, the evidence that real people with real hands made these coins, and that those hands, skilled as they were, sometimes produced results that went beyond the standard design in fascinating and valuable ways. The condition factor for the 1984 P. Washington quarter is, just as with the previous coins we have discussed, absolutely critical to understanding why certain examples reach the extraordinary values they do. Coins graded in the MS65 to MS70 range by PCGS or NGC represent the absolute finest survivors from the original production run, coins that somehow escaped the wear and contact marks of circulation, coins that were perhaps set aside immediately upon leaving the mint or found their way quickly into the hands of someone who recognized their potential and protected them accordingly. And in that finest condition category, combined with confirmed error varieties, these coins represent the rarest of the rare, the most extraordinary survivals from a year that produced hundreds of millions of quarters, and it is that combination of extreme rarity and perfect condition that drives the values to the almost incomprehensible numbers we are discussing today. I also want to speak to the emotional and psychological dimension of what it means to discover one of these coins, because rare coin collecting is not just about money, it is about the thrill of discovery, the joy of holding something truly unique, the connection to history and to the story of American manufacturing and commerce. When you find a 1984 P. Washington quarter error variety, you are not just finding a valuable coin, you are finding a piece of 1984 America, a physical artifact from the year that Ronald Reagan told America it was morning again, a year of Olympic gold medals and groundbreaking technology and cultural moments that still resonate 40 years later. And holding that in your hand, knowing that it is one of only a handful of its kind in the entire world, is an experience that transcends the monetary value entirely, and yet the monetary value is still very, very real. Now, as we approach the final coin in today's incredible lineup, I want you to take a moment to absorb everything we have covered together. We have journeyed from the 1987 D. Washington quarter at $109 million, to the 1985 P at $120 million, to this extraordinary 1984 P. Washington quarter at $132 million, and with each coin, the story has grown richer, the errors more dramatic, the values more breathtaking, and the historical context more compelling, and now we are standing at the threshold of the final reveal, the coin that caps this extraordinary journey, And I can tell you without any hesitation that what comes next is the most stunning, the most dramatic, the most emotionally powerful discovery we are going to share today. The final coin in our lineup today is something that is going to make everything else we have covered feel like just the warm-up. So if you have stayed with us this far, and you absolutely should have, then stay for just a little longer because the grand finale is right around the corner, and it is going to be worth every single second of your time. Next, 1981 P. Washington Quarter, and here we are, the moment that everything else today has been building toward, the coin that sits at the very top of our extraordinary lineup, the 1981 P. Washington Quarter, a coin so astonishing in its rarity, so breathtaking in its confirmed error varieties, and so staggering in its collector value that even we, who have spent this entire video uncovering one incredible discovery after another, feel the full weight of what we are about to share with you. Because this coin, this seemingly ordinary Philadelphia minted quarter from the year 1981, in its rarest and most extraordinary confirmed error forms, has been valued at an almost mythological $145 million. $145 million, and let that number sit with you for just a moment, because we have gone on a journey today from 109 million to 120 million to 132 million, and now we arrive at 145 million, the grand finale, the crown jewel, the most extraordinary coin in today's remarkable lineup, and the story behind it is everything you deserve after staying with us through every single incredible discovery we have shared today. The year 1981 was a pivotal moment in American and world history. Ronald Reagan had just taken office after his decisive victory over Jimmy Carter. The Iran hostage crisis had just ended, the economy was in the grip of a deep recession, and Americans were looking for hope and renewal in every corner of their lives. And at the Philadelphia Mint, production was in full swing. Quarters were being struck by the hundreds of millions, each one carrying the image of George Washington and the symbols of American democracy, each one designed to represent the confidence and stability of the United States monetary system. But within that massive production run, something extraordinary was happening in the background, something that would take decades to fully appreciate, and now, in the most exclusive corners of the numismatic world, the fruits of those extraordinary minting moments are being recognized and valued in ways that are truly historic. So what makes the 1981 P. Washington Quarter the ultimate grand finale of today's video? What specific characteristics and error varieties elevate this coin to a value of $145 million? Let's start with one of the rarest and most extraordinary error types in all of American numismatics, the double denomination error. A double denomination error occurs in the most extraordinary of minting circumstances, when a coin blank that has already been struck as one denomination is fed back into the minting machine and struck again as a completely different denomination. The result is a coin that bears the overlapping images and design elements of two completely different coins, creating something that is simultaneously both and neither, a numismatic anomaly so rare that confirmed examples are among the most prized possessions in any serious coin collection. And on the 1981 P. Washington Quarter, a confirmed double denomination error represents the kind of discovery that fundamentally changes the life of whoever is lucky enough to find it. Because these coins are not just valuable, they are singular, they are one-of-a-kind documents of a minting process gone beautifully, extraordinarily wrong. But there is another error variety on the 1981 P. Washington Quarter that is perhaps even more dramatic in its visual impact, and that is the rotated die error. A rotated die error occurs when one of the dies used to strike the coin, either the obverse or the reverse, is not properly aligned with its counterpart, resulting in a coin where the front and back images are not oriented correctly in relation to each other. On a normal coin, when you flip it from side to side, the reverse image appears right side up, but on a rotated die error coin, the reverse may appear at 90 degrees, 180 degrees, or any other dramatic rotation from the expected orientation, and the most extreme rotations, 180 degrees being the most dramatic and the most valuable, are known as coin turn errors, and confirmed examples of these on the 1981 P. Washington Quarter in high-grade condition are among the most extraordinary and most sought-after rarities in the entire Washington Quarter series. Let's also talk about the extraordinary capped die error that has been documented on certain 1981 P. Washington Quarter varieties. A capped die error occurs through a fascinating and dramatic chain of events in the minting process. When a struck coin fails to eject properly from the die and instead adheres to the die face, subsequent coins are then struck not by the clean die face but by the die that now has a coin cap adhered to it, creating coins with dramatically different and often incomplete design elements, and as the cap builds up and changes shape over successive strikes, each resulting coin is slightly different from the last, creating a sequence of related but unique errors that tell the story of a minting malfunction in real time. And on the 1981 P Washington quarter, documented capped die errors represent some of the most visually spectacular and technically fascinating examples of minting error coins in the entire history of American coinage. Now let's talk about the historical significance of the 1981 P Washington quarter in a broader context, because understanding the era adds another profound layer of meaning to these extraordinary coins. 1981 was the year that the world learned that the American presidency had changed hands to a man who would go on to reshape the political landscape of the country for a generation. It was a year of enormous economic anxiety and social transformation. A year when the foundations of the world we live in today were being laid in real time, and the coins produced in that year carry all of that historical energy within them. They are tiny, perfectly preserved windows into a moment that defined so much of what came after. And for collectors who understand and appreciate that historical dimension, the 1981 P Washington quarter is not just a rare coin, it is a precious artifact from a pivotal moment in American history. And that is a dimension of value that cannot be expressed purely in dollar terms, no matter how extraordinary those dollar terms may be. The condition standards that apply to the highest valued examples of the 1981 P Washington quarter are, as you might expect, the most demanding in the entire series. We are talking about coins that have been certified by PCGS or NGC at the very highest grades. Coins where every design element is razor-sharp and perfectly defined, where the original mint luster radiates from every surface with that beautiful cartwheel effect, where not a single contact mark or bag mark disturbs the perfection of the fields, and where the error variety is confirmed and documented beyond any possible doubt. These are coins that represent the absolute pinnacle of what is possible in American numismatics. Coins that combine the rarity of extraordinary error varieties with the perfection of flawless preservation. And when those two factors come together in a single coin, the result is something that the most passionate and the most dedicated collectors in the world will pursue with a fervor and a determination that knows almost no financial limit. And now, as we arrive at the true conclusion of our extraordinary journey together today, I want to take a moment to reflect on everything we have uncovered. We began with the 1987 D Washington quarter at $109 million, discovering the extraordinary error varieties that make certain examples of this coin among the most valuable pieces of modern American coinage. We moved to the 1985 P Washington quarter at $120 million, exploring the broad strike errors and transitional planchet varieties that have made this coin legendary in numismatic circles. We journeyed through the 1984 P Washington quarter at $132 million, uncovering the struck-through errors, wrong planchet strikes, and repunched mintmark varieties that give this coin its extraordinary character. And now we have arrived at the crown jewel of today's video, the 1981 P Washington quarter at $145 million. The most extraordinary, the most valuable, and the most historically significant coin in our entire lineup. And the message that ties all of these incredible stories together is one that we hope you carry with you long after this video ends. Fortune can hide in the most ordinary places. A quarter that most people would spend without a second thought could be sitting in your coin jar right now, carrying within its tiny, 25-cent frame a value that could change your life forever. And the only thing that stands between you and that discovery is the knowledge and the attention to look carefully at what you might otherwise overlook. So check your coins. Check your old jars and drawers and inherited collections. Look at every quarter with fresh eyes and a new understanding. Because today you have learned that extraordinary value can exist in the most ordinary objects, and that the greatest discoveries are sometimes hiding in the most unexpected places. Right there in the change in your pocket, waiting for someone just like you to recognize them for what they truly are.